Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm in awe to see such a huge, such a powerful gathering of my daughters and sisters. Let me share a line of appreciation for those who have made this to a powerful gathering. Thank you to Madam Nargis for giving me this such a moment of inspiration and a moment of pride to see all my daughters and sisters, coming together to make a statement for the Muslims, not in Kerala, not in India, but across the globe. So thank you so much for giving this opportunity to be on this very important dais, which I was not aware of in all these years. I myself is a Qutub Jehan kidwai and a Muslim girl. I just want to share a few things about my life. And being a Muslim, being a woman, and being a person from India, we have a lot of responsibilities. My study, I am born and brought up in Bombay. My study, post-graduation in anthropology and sociology. But I'm also a commercial pilot, and I was the first Muslim girl to be a commercial pilot in India. I started my flying course at the age of 17. I did my first solo flight at the age of 17 years, 6 months. I was not issued my license because I was 6 months less for my 18 years. And after completing my 18 years, I was issued private pilot license for my solo flight. And I was the only student in the flying club, a Muslim girl, among the boys. And I was the very fast learner by the grace of God, because I did my solo after only 8 hours of my flying. Usually students do their solos after 18 or 20 hours of flying. But I'm not very, I won't say that it was my skill or my intelligence, but it was all support of my family. And by the grace of God, I was able to achieve that feat. I know my parents faced a very stiff opposition from the family, because both the sides, like from my mother's side, my father's side, they said I'm into something very haram because I'm wearing trousers and shirts like a boy, like a man in the flying club. They were opposed to my post-graduation study as well. But I will tell you, the woman in my life was my mother, who supported me right and left. And she used to accompany me throughout my flying training programs. I worked for private airlines in Oman, and then I joined the civil society movement after the World Trade Center attack. Now you women must be thinking that there is something happened in America, and what we Muslim women are going to do about it. But I thought, like, somewhere, why Muslims been profiled and targeted, and Islam been tarnished by this some vested interest group. I joined a civil society. I worked for Hindu-Muslim communal rights for 15 years in India. I was part of Godhra investigation team. I was part of Malegaon blast team. I was part of Hyderabad blast team. We also worked in the relief camp during the Muzaffarnagar riot in 2012 and 13. Do you think, am I mad, or my women leaders are like crazy? We are just going into conflict areas, going into relief, and going into among the riot affected people? No, somewhere as a Muslim daughter, as a daughter of Islam, I felt that it is more my responsibility to save the minorities, irrespective of their caste, creed, or religion. And I'm proud that Allah has gave me that courage, that strength, that dedication, that no one can stop me. Now I'm leading one of the United Nations registered project across 120 countries under United Religions Initiative. United Religions Initiative is a grassroots interfaith movement to promote daily enduring interfaith values, to work for peace, justice, and healing of all human beings and environment. So I'm not just restricted to India. I'm working with Myanmar refugees. I'm working with Pakistani Christian minorities. I'm working with any Asian minorities whose human rights have been violated. Yes, I'm also simultaneously working for the reforms in my Muslim community, in my ummah. I'm not afraid of my consequences when I work for any peace-building measure. And I want you all to be the same, because there are very few women leaders in the world who can raise voice to establish peace or to change the policies and legislations, because it is affecting our next generation and many more generations to come in the future. Why can't we gather that courage? Because we are educated, we are skilled, we are very much having a good intelligence. Why we women just confine ourselves to home? An educated girl, often she's been educated, but after marriage, she's not been supported to work or contribute to the society in whichever way, whether economic or socially. Even after marriage, we can make a very good contributor to the social welfare and the economic welfare of just not the Muslim community, but also all those underprivileged, marginalized community in the world. I have derived my inspiration from the history of Islam, because for me, Surah Ahzab, verse 33, is my guiding source of inspiration. The verse says, and it has been said, this was the 1400 years back, a declaration, a powerful declaration on equality of men and women, assigned by Allah Rabbul Izzat. The meaning of the verse says, the fasting woman, the fasting man, the believing man, the believing woman, the pious man, the pious woman, and hence so and forth. I can quote several such verses in Quran which says, men and women are equally assigned with the responsibility to carry forward the welfare of the community. Ummah. Are we really contributing to the welfare of the Ummah when half of our women population are not educated, are not skilled, and even if they are skilled and educated, they are not supported to contribute for the welfare or the development of the country or a nation? There are many of the girls who are engineers, who are medical practitioners, but after marriage, their roles are subsided. As I said, I have derived inspiration from the Islam, so let me tell you, my concept and my perspective of Ummul Mu'mineen is very different from what we have been taught or what we have been going on by our religious leaders. I'm with full respect, with due respect to all our religious leaders, but I have my own understanding of Quranic jurisprudence, Quranic values, and Quranic guidelines. For the last 15 years, I have been researching on the Quranic verses which was meant for the woman. I have a compilation of a small manual book where I have collected all these verses which has come for the woman and which gives out and out right to the woman in Islam. Hazrat Khadija must be a wife of a Prophet ﷺ, but for me she was one of the inspiring figure in the Islamic history, because she was a businesswoman. But she got the honor to be the first moment in the Islamic history, because she was the first one to recite kalma and accept the prophethood of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are so many such examples in the history of Islam where women have been honored to be the first, so that Islam and the history and the Ummah remember them, not just a Mu'minin, but a significant contributor in the development of Islam and Islamic values and Islamic governance. Hazrat Khadija was just not a woman. She was a political advisor for Prophet ﷺ. She supported financially. She took all the risk. And she stood by the Prophet so that the Islam, the values of Musawat, been preached across the globe. Hazrat Aisha, she was just not, again, a narrator of hadith. Again, I would point out, 80% of the Sahih Bukhari was narrated by Hazrat Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. But sometimes our religious leaders, they say women have half faith and half mind. Hazrat Aisha was a scholar of hadith, but let me also highlight that she was one of the bravest lady in the family of Prophet because she was leading many wars during prophethood. She was an expert camel rider. She stitched leather water bag and earned her earnings. And that earnings she used to help the poor in the Mecca. How many of us are earning our own earning and helping the poor in our community, especially the women and sisters here? We are capable of doing some kind of earning, but still we are not into this. Similarly, Hazrat Hafsa, daughter of Hazrat Umar. She was just not the daughter of Hazrat Umar, she was called Lioness. She was the first custodian of the Holy Quran, which came in the writing book form. Do you think a woman given a custody of a Holy Quran when the civil war was at its heights during Hazrat Usman's period? Why they entrusted a woman to hold and protect the Holy Quran, the first copy of Holy Quran? Were there not any tribal leaders, brave leaders? There were other Sahabis as well, men Sahabis as well. And during 4th Khilafat period, Islam was spread to Europe, Central Asia, and North Africa. So it was a huge empire of Islam. And in the whole empire, they found only Hazrat Hafsa to be a brave lady who can protect the first copy of Quran. So just think, use your logic. Because they found Hazrat Hafsa was the most bravest woman, bravest than the man. And she was a Hafiza. And she had a courage to challenge all those enemies of Islam in Mecca. And you see now the contribution of Hafsa, Aisha, Khadija, Salama, Treaty of Hudaybiyah. It's very famous, and let me share with you one information. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah has been referred into United Nations Human Rights Charter. How many of Muslims knows this? Now we have been tagged with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and we are supporters of radical groups. But you see, our Prophet's Treaty of Hudaybiyah has been referred in Human Rights Charter. Treaty of Hudaybiyah is one of the best examples of how to build reconciliation between the conflicted groups. Salama helped Prophet Muhammad to, because when he signed the treaty with the enemies of Mecca, he accepted very humiliating terms and conditions. And this made Hazrat Umar and all his followers very upset. They said, we will not follow you, we will proceed to Mecca for the Hajj, and we will sacrifice and will remove our haram. We will not reside in Hudaybiyah and listen to the enemies of Mecca. Prophet was in tears, and he said, and he came into his tent, and he was like sharing with his wife, Salama. Salama advised that you are a leader, you are a prophet, you are a chosen one of the Allah. Go and sacrifice the animal, they will follow you. You have to understand that your ummah is upset because we are powerful at the moment and we are giving up at the hands of the enemies of Makkah on humiliation terms. Prophet followed her advice and he sacrificed the animal and all the followers followed him. So there was a big chance of civil war against Prophet during Hudaybiyah. But the advice of Salama helped or break that, tension between the Prophet and his follower. How many of us are so wise to give such political advice to our community leaders or our leaders in Muslim community? Similarly, Hazrat Umar appointed Al-Shifa Abdullah, market inspector. How many of us would apply for a market inspector at this moment? Like, we are all educated, we are going for a graduation in various fields. But are we interested in this kind of work? But this was there in the history of Islam. Hazrat Umar appointed Al-Shifa. She was a 65-year-old lady. Market inspector to stop malpractice, adulteration of food, and any black money or black, marketing. So she was one of the dominating lady of Mecca, and she was very powerful and courageous. When she used to enter into the Mecca market, it has been narrated in the history that the shopkeepers used to shiver with her voice and the sound of the feet of her horse. She used to come on the horse riding into the market. Al-Shifa is one of the very leading lady in the period of Hazrat Umar, because she was also a very expert medicinal practitioner. There are many more examples I have, and I share with my daughters and sisters during my meeting and workshops and training. Why I suggested few things here, like Ummul Momineen is a role model for us. So don't allow anyone to stop yourself. Go for education, go for economic empowerment, go for economic independence. Zakat is farj on us. It's one of the mandatory ahkamat of Islam. But how many of our women and sisters and daughters are able to give the zakat from their hard-earned earnings, halal earnings? Can we just die without performing all this faraiz? I'm traveling, I'm going to all these countries, I'm going to 120 countries and different conflict zones and war areas. We are addressing media, we are trying to counter all those who malign the name of Islam. But what is our contribution to make our image of Muslim and Islam so that our youth, our young generation are not targeted? There are quite an instance of our youth joining some radical groups in the Middle East, ISIS and Al-Qaeda. There is a problem in our community. If we see this kind of youth inclining towards radical ideology, we need to question ourselves, reflect ourselves. Inshallah, in my association with MGM in future, we are trying to strengthen our work and network together. I would share more such, informations, or we will have more such trainings and gatherings in future with detailed informations of roles of women in Islam and the status of women in Islam. I end my talk here with the hope that you will question yourself, reflect yourself, that education leads to empowerment. But if the education is wasted, and if we are unable to help the marginalized with our skill, being a man or a woman, I think our life will be useless. I want you to set a very beautiful example, being a Muslim woman, being a Muslim young girls, countering the image of Muslim women in the world. Because when they are asking, you're a Muslim woman, they're surprised. If I'm on the dais with various other experts, because they think Muslim women are not capable to be on a peace-building table. Let's break this image. Let's counter these stereotypes, inspire ourselves so that we become a role model for many such women in the community, not just Muslim, but other minorities and marginalized women. Thank you so much for giving this patience listening. With the hope and the prayer, I end my talk here and I seek your blessings. And inshallah, pray for a long, stronger association with MGM. Assalamu alaikum.